In this video, I'm going to show you how to stretch out a bulb. And if you're trying a bulb fairly more advanced, moderate difficulty, so I would assume you already know how to throw and throw fairly even walls. I throw just a basic cylinder. This one was about 4.5 pounds, maybe 4 3/4. I can't remember because I threw it just a bit ago. I like to throw it as evenly as I can. I don't want, like my beginners, when they typically throw, they throw thick at the bottom and then the top really thin. Doesn't bode well for this. It causes some collapses and things like that. So I threw the straight cylinder, checked the evenness of my walls, and then I used a rib, a metal rib, going up the side just to primarily get the slip off, but it does thin it out a little bit as well. I need to get the slip off because I want this to dry just a little bit. So this has been sitting out for about probably 30 minutes, maybe 25, but just a little bit. Some people heat gun it. This size, I don't feel it's necessary to heat gun. Something a little bit bigger, like 7 to 10 pounds, I would definitely heat gun because I don't want it to collapse on me and I don't want to waste that clay. So for this, I'm going to be inside. I prefer, and it doesn't matter if you're using your left hand pressing out, some people do it traditionally, but I prefer my right hand inside and pushing this way. So I use a flexible rib. This one's like a Mud Tools rib. There's small, medium, large of these. This one's really flexible. If I'm doing something bigger or the walls are a little thicker, or I'm doing like a sodium silicate on the outside, I like a thicker, less flimsy. This one's still pretty flexible, but I like that I don't have to manipulate or contort my body inside as much with the flexible ones. So we'll get it going at a moderate speed. I'm going to take a real flexible rib, and again, what the flexible rib does is it bends for me this way as I'm pressing out, and I don't have to worry so much about contorting my wrist. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to push, and I'm going to slowly go down. Key ingredient here is slowly go down. It's pretty aggressive. All the way to the bottom. So if you can see a little wobble there, I'll correct that as we go. Try not to get too exaggerated on that wobble, but I'll fix it. Start at the top again. If I don't start at the top myself, just personal preference, it'll start to wobble a little bit like it just did, because it catches on my arm. Again. And as this thins out, you'll start to hear a sound. As you do more and more of them, you'll hear like a hum. And that's just the walls getting thinner and thinner. You'll actually get to the point where it's so thin that you'll hear the motion of, or the vibrations of the wheel, even though this is a really quiet wheel. I don't know if you can hear those. Probably not on the phone camera here. I'll go a few more passes here. You can really get wide with these. If I was going to go super, super wide, I probably would have heat gunned it. Most of where your collapses happen are up here on the shoulder of this. Sometimes the whole lip will cave in, but usually it's like a little shoulder here. Sometimes the very bottom here where that little wobble is. And to be honest, this isn't too wobbly to where I'm going to worry about it too much. I'll try to straighten it out once I get as wide as I'm going. Yeah, the sound is kind of like when you fill up a balloon with helium, like a tank sound. That's what it reminds me of. I also make sure, and you can't really see it on the inside, but as I'm going down, I go here and I go down the wall. Oops, I just hit it. But I go down the wall on the inside nice and even, and I kind of curl the tool down and I flatten out the bottom to make sure I'm not digging out any chunks or anything like that at the bottom. So you can see my hand barely fits in there and hitting the lip. So this pass, I'm going to try to straighten out that wobble a little bit at the bottom. Coming back up. Okay, then all the times I've hit this top part with my wrist or my knuckle, I can just clean that up. Sometimes this flimsy one isn't quite stiff enough to get a nice round lip here. I like the lip going inward so I can throw a lid for it. Sometimes when I throw these, I can even just push out from the inside and scoop around as I come up. Some people like to do that. The metal rib sometimes is the one I prefer for this. This one's pretty on point. But I do like to take the metal rib and just kind of get rid of some of those little throwing lines that I left. Those are from when I scraped, when I had a straight cylinder and I had taken the smooth rib, used my inside hand to press against there to get all that slip off the outside and thin it out a little bit. That's what those lines are from, and I can get rid of those a little bit more later. I can also trim those out, but I'll get rid of them and just show you on camera. Just for the sake of example, this one, the mouth is pretty even. It's got a slight little hum to it. But just for the example in the video here, because it's very common in the beginning when you first start throwing bolts this shape, is you'll have to even out the lip. So what I do is I take my needle tool and I'll draw a straight line. I usually like to sit for this so I can hold still. But my finger that's going to catch the clay is just slightly in front of my needle tool. So I'm going to get my needle tool kind of hooked, or my finger hooked, and my needle tool right here. Like that, so it catches it. And I'll be honest, it doesn't always go that well. Sometimes it falls inside and I need to grab it with a needle tool or something else. Then I'll go back with my sponge. Soft touch first. First I'm adding just a slight bit of moisture. Moisture is kind of the enemy on these types of pots because if I get the shoulder too wet, it's going to lend more to collapsing. But I need to clean this lip up a little bit, so I add a slight amount of moisture, and then I'm going to squeeze that lip to even it out, just like compressing a lip when you're throwing anything else. A few passes, soften that up with my sponge, and that is the bulb. For these, I really enjoy, you could flare this lip out. You can do any number of things. I've seen some guys like Randy Broadnecks where they kind of collapse it inward and almost kind of sucks you in there. It's like a little volcano sort of thing. Randy and Broadnecks and Don Ellis and also Tom Coleman are the guys that I really see doing these shapes a lot. A lot of cool things you can do with these. You can draw lines, you can pull string into them, various different directions and get crazy with it. But I really like to do inset lids for these, but I wanted to do one video that's just solely on stretching out a bulb. So there it is, the bulb, or the moon jar for some people.